I'm here to talk about personality diversity. At the same time, I'm also aware that this is a topic that a lot of people have an idea on. Uh, what is diversity? What is equity? What is inclusion? At the same time, a lot of us do not get into the details or understand, little bit of the depth of the subject. And I thought in today's presentation, I could talk to you about something that's very, very close to my heart. This is a subject very close to my heart. I lead this for Publicis Sapien as an organization. I'm a very passionate about creating community support for non-stream people. I handle large social media groups for mothers, women, single parents. I'm also very passionate about LGBTQI advocacy and handle a large group of DNI enthusiasts and practitioners who are learning and growing every day with exchanges with each other. So thank you for giving me this opportunity. I would like to share my screen and hopefully everything will go well. I would also love for all of you to interact a little bit as we go, so that we understand each other. And I would love to get questions from you as well. Right? Okay. Here we are. Here. So Publicis Sapient is a modern digital transformation partner helping established organizations become digitally enabled to help better serve our clients, customers, and okay. So I represent Publicis Sapient in the, and I lead their diversity, equity, and inclusion function. We are a modern digital transformation partner helping established organizations become digitally enabled to help better serve our clients, customers, and thrive in the future. We are an organization that are built to fix and not fit, solutions for our clients. And it's been our legacy that for the last 30 plus years, we have transformed from having a focus on execution, the experience of the brand, to having IT at the core of the business, to evolving to a digital transformation. And now we provide from 2016, we provide accelerated digital transformation as an organization, as an offering to our clients. Our scale is, we are around 20,000 people, very, very passionate people across the globe. We have offices in 50 plus offices, which are globally connected. We have more than 30 years of digital pioneering and customer innovation experience in the organization. We have a set of some of the largest brand as our coveted clients. And we are very, very protective about our culture. So, our culture has been recognized through the awards that we've won as well. We have the 100 Best Companies Award from Working Mother, Best Practice Places to Work for LGBTQ Equality 2018 HRC Award. We have the Best Companies for Dads from the same Working Mother, awards organization. The Human Rights Campaign for Diversity at 100% score at the Corporate Equality Index. We also have awards from great managers and winners at the Economic Times and more. We are also a great place to work certified in 2020. Our culture defines who we are as an organization in addition to our digital and technology focus. And that's something that we are extremely proud of as we speak. Right? We started our operations in India in 2000, and we are among the top best places to work in India. We deliver over 57% of our work from India, and it's a very tightly integrated globally, connected organizations. Some of our global leadership roles work out of India. And in India, we are more than 11,000 people. Our vision is to help people thrive in the brave pursuit of the next. We encourage people to be human, to be courageous, to pursue our dreams, whatever it is that you want to achieve. Right? Now we come to the context of diversity, equity, and inclusion. So,
Please go.
diversity, equity, and inclusion is the core of our business. It's at the core of who we are as an organization. And again, for the benefit of our listeners, I would like to go a little deeper. Sometimes we're here, this is really the buzzword. Why are we talking so much about diversity, equity, and inclusion? What is a big deal? That really is the point that we have wanted to drive, right? So remember, over the last many years, with from organizations like McKinsey, Accenture, Catalyst, and multiple research that they have done in time, we have heard from them that diverse organizations outperform at an average of 15 to 35%. Organizations with a culture of psychological safety are 6 times more likely to innovate than the norm. To be an industry leader, it is critical to be at the top of the talent pool, and companies in the top quartile for racial ethnic diversity are 35% more likely to have higher financial returns above their respective national industry medians. Right? This is slide number 8. And if I were the leader of a business, would I want to have my organization outperform others by anything between 15 to 30%? Is your answer going to be yes or no? I'm sure all of you would say that yes, we would like to have that extra advantage of innovation. We would like to have the extra advantage of productivity in my organization if I were to run an organization. So please remember that diversity is not just something that kind-hearted people do. Diversity is a strategy. It's a strategic advantage if used in the right sense, right? Next slide. So the slide shows a small boy sitting outside a group, and for the interest of accessibility, it says, "Have you ever felt like this?" So have any of you who are listening have ever felt like this? Most of you would probably say yes. We have seen and ourselves being in a space like this. We've also heard of other experiences that we have feel excluded from groups from other places, right? Next slide, please. And hence, what is that we need to do for creating a diverse, equity, and inclusive workplace, right? What does a strategic, diverse, equitable, and inclusive workplace have? Organizations and institutions and societies need individuals today to foster diversity, be courageous to create an equitable environment, and be very mindfully inclusive. And how can you, as a person who is in the team, who is a leader, who is a diversity, equity, inclusion practitioner, be prepared for this? Next slide. So this is a quick sense of what diversity, equity, and inclusion means. Diversity asks who is in the room. So if you see the first picture, you will see that there's a table and there are two people sitting there, and there are two people who are sitting outside that room. So diversity is a question that you are saying that how many people who are in the room, right? Do we have the right set of people? Do we have the representation from underrepresented communities, right? Equity, suppose you are in a scenario that you have a diverse workflows and you have been able to get them inside the system. Then equity will ask who is trying to get a seat at the table but can't, right? Or whose presence in the room is under constant threat of erasure. So you may have had people come inside the door, but do they have a chance to speak? Do they have a chance to be heard? And if they're in the room, are they feeling that if I do something wrong, then I will be the first person out of this room, right? Do we have a level playing field, or are some people under constant threat? When we talk about inclusion, you may have everybody at the table, you've tried to create a level playing field, but inclusion will ask, has everyone's ideas being heard? Are they taken seriously? Because they aren't in the majority. You have to remember that. So people who are in the majority, you see a person here with a dialogue box, Shikha, Manoj, what are your thoughts on this plan? So they're asking the other people who are not in the majority to say, what are your thoughts on this? So you actually invite somebody to share their thoughts, make them feel valued and included. Next slide. I also want to spend like just a few minutes understanding what equity means. We all understand what equality means. So you see a picture on the right where you see a man, a woman, and somebody who's on a wheelchair representing people with disabilities, all given the same stool. So you are saying, I am providing an equal opportunity, which means I'm giving the same thing to everyone to perform, and I've already got them in the room. Yes, that is an equal environment for sure. But what is equity? In the second picture, you see that people who've always had access and an extra access to the playground in front of them, the stool is pulled back from them, right? The stool is pulled back so that they are brought at the same level as the others. A person who did not have access to the view is given double the stool. So she's given, two stools to stand up on. And the third person who's on the wheelchair is given a ramp and also an additional height. So now if you see, all three of them kind of have the same view, and that is making a level playing field. That, my friends, is the concept of equity. Equity is the absence of avoidable or remediable differences. So you have to definitely keep in mind that you avoid differences, or if there's something that can be remedied, then we do that among groups of people, whether those groups are defined socially, economically, demographically, or even geographically. I think the difficult part of equity is to pull back access from people who've always had a privileged access to this field. Next slide, please. Inclusive collaboration is at the heart of Publicis Sapien. It's one of our core values. And I wanted to share with you, when you create a diverse and equitable work environment, there's bound to be also conflict, because we are all coming from completely different backgrounds at times, right? So what do we do to create an inclusive collaboration? We listen to and seek inputs from others with different viewpoints. We don't submerge conflict, but we surface and resolve conflicts collaboratively. We create a safe space to ensure every voice is heard and respected. And we invite people into the conversation and encourage diverse perspective. We integrate multiple ideas to co-create something powerful around a shared goal, right? So these are thoughts around inclusion and how one can create an inclusive workplace. Next slide. Thank you. Now coming to the topic of personality diversity, I really had a video that we are not able to showcase, but I promise anybody who reaches out to me on LinkedIn and other mediums on social media that I can share some more information along with the videos that we were planning to share, right? So what is personality diversity? Understanding personalities of people and increasing the awareness of personality diversity is a lot like developing self-awareness, right? So as you are dwelling into the nuances of other people, especially with people who are different than you will and you are bound to have more self-awareness as well. Greater diversity of personalities means greater balance of strengths and weaknesses, and this is important for any company. Different personalities working together also means a greater variety of perspectives on problems and situations that your organization will inevitably face. So as you have an understanding of different personalities, as you embrace and include different personalities, you will have a greater balance of strengths and weakness in an organization, which is completely desirable by an organization. And especially in terms of challenging times, you're bound to get more ideas, more perspectives around the situation. That definitely helps, right? Next slide. What are the most common personalities that we see at work? I'm sure when you read some of this, you will know and you will identify people around you who fall into some of these categories. The first one, ambitious and amiable. These are people we all like. We like people who have a lot of initiative. We like people who are pleasant. These are eager to learn. They're well balanced and well work. They work well under pressure because they're self-starter, they're self-initiators. They may lack attention to detail and are a more big picture types, right? So that's the other side of it, right? The second type is highly functional introverts. They're usually the company's pillars. They're often very quiet but always pleasant. They focus on tasks and get the job done. They're often hesitant to express their opinions, which could result in being unhappy on the job. So these are people who will who will avoid confrontation. These are people who are highly functional, and as you can understand, they will get the job done, but they tend to be more quiet. They speak only in their own turn. They're very mindful of interrupting somebody else, right? And they're really pleasant to work with. So another type of people that we would want at the workplace. The third type of people is anxious warriors. They are constantly complaining and often struggle to meet deadlines. They may work longer hours to get the job done. They have a tendency to have procrastination issues, right? And we all know some of them for sure. Then the fourth type is people with intense temperament. They're difficult to manage, can be filled with anger, become easily irritated by minor incidents. They are easily influenced by the work environment, other employees, poor management. So anything that's going wrong, these are the people who will show all the triggers, right? And again, as we know some of them, these are not very easy to work with, right? So when you look at all of these personalities, I wanted to ask yourself, I would like you to ask yourself, do I have a little bit of everything? It's a moment of introspection. And if you really think about it, all of us are capable of and are probably showing signs of all of these. But we tend to have a certain a nature that we represent or express in most times. And then there are certain things that we express probably in safer circles of people or at very rare times under stress, right? Now, as we become more aware that all of us are capable of having all of these personalities at some point of time or the other, let's look at how do we work with different personality types. Next slide. So let's look at what really becomes, our bias when we are looking at personality diversity. Our brains are constantly taking mental shortcuts, right? This is what helps us function very quickly. So when we have options in some way or the other, all of us tend to choose a certain kind of an option or the other. This is based on the seeds model of bias. First, similarity bias. So people like me are better than others. That's our understanding, right? So we think that people, because I'm a high functioning individual, I perform well, I'm easy to work with, and these are the, some kind of notions we have about ourselves. We feel people like me, as in personalities like me, are better than others. The second one is experience. If it feels right, it must be true. So it's more of a gut feel thing. The third one, experience. My perceptions are accurate. This is generally what helps us see through things. This is our faith in ourselves. This is also, however, a bias. My own perceptions are accurate. Distance. Closer is better than distant, right? So if there is somebody who's easier to access versus somebody who's a little more difficult to access or is at long distance, we prefer the person closer because we feel that we will have an easier interaction and we'll get more done through that. Lastly, safety. Bad is stronger than good. So we feel if somebody is, is feeling strong, like, we feel that we want to bank on some things. And if they're people who've gone through a certain kind of, negative environment, etc., they are generally, good, right? So these shortcuts are known as biases, right? Next slide. So how do you understand personalities? If we really need to get into the depth of personalities, there are some combinations that we can get, and you can also look at the personality questionnaire by Faceit. They are doing some really good work in helping people understand. There are also a lot of organizations also go through the MBTI profiles. There used to be organizations that use the Thomas profiling. So any of these profiling works for you to get an idea about a certain personality for sure. So the first one is, this expression of will. So these are people who seem more determined, more assertive, more independent, right? Is one side of our personality. Our energy, expression of energy. Are we enthusiastic, sociable, involved? Affection. Are we generally seemingly open, sincere, warm, and generous, right? Again, our own sense of control. When a person operates, are they operating from a sense of being structured, orderly, self-disciplined, or are they generally unstructured and go more into creative, which is more unpredictable, and in that sense somebody else does not know what's coming their way, right? So whose sense of control is more dominant? Is it for the person who's managing the person, or their own sense of controlling their own environment, right? The details of how far do they go to control an environment is what we are talking about here. Emotionality, this interacts with other 4 factors. So when there is stress, how does a person really react, right? Do we have high, medium, or low stress tolerance? Do we have confidence in ourselves, especially when it comes to ambiguous environment? And what are the kind of emotional states that we generally represent, right? So when we look at personalities, I would like you to think about these factors, right? What is the kind of will that people are demonstrating? What's the kind of energy level? What's the kind of affection, control, emotionality? Now let's look at a slightly more detailed version of how these personality traits are actually expressed. Next slide. Right. I'm hoping that you're able to read it. If not, you will find this on the Faceit personality questionnaire page. If not, again, I would be happy to provide you with this material. So the will, when we look at determination, the inner drive to commit to their own ideas, confrontation, the drive to confront issues as they arrive, independence, a tendency to go my own way. These are my expression of will. When we look at energy, we're looking at vitality, social ability, adaptability, right? Is there a obvious enthusiasm and energy, right? Which is sometimes very good, and sometimes, it also leads to risk averseness at times. Interest in being with people. This is interesting because is your sociability driving you so much that you are going to be a people pleaser? Hence, will you bring up an idea that you really, oppose? Like, are you okay to confront and challenge somebody or not, right? Adaptability, involving others in your thinking. Are you going to let people in your world? Are you going to be inclusive in your thinking? When we come to affection, one of the traits is altruism, putting other people's interests first before you. And this used in balance can be good. But if you have somebody who goes all out to help people, there could be a little bit of self-harm in terms of not completing their own task, but doing something else. Support, always trying to be understanding, right? Of other people, which is a good trait to have in a team, right? As long as this person is empathetic. Trust, tendency to take people at face value. Are you really helping people be who they are? And are you also trusting yourself to get through a situation, challenging or not, right? When we look at control, right? We look at discipline, being personally organized and planned, and which is a good thing. But and also being responsible, being willing to take personal responsibility. So these are people with high accountability. But the other side of this trait is if you are going to be imposing, if you're going to be too structured where other people can't be creative, you need to, you have a very extreme sense of control, then that is when people get into issues. Emotionality, tension and apprehension, a general sense of tension and stress, being cautious and not over optimistic. So all of these are going a little deeper into the different facets of personality. When we look at this, I would encourage all of you to think about what is a good balance to have, right? Anyways, as you're thinking about some of this, next slide, let's look at what are the things to keep in mind. So as you're looking at personality diversity and you are thinking about how do I make my own team more diverse, there are three things that you really have to be cautious about. People can be suspicious of personality inventories. So if you're doing MBTI and others, be cautious. Make people have a good sense of safety. So there's a psychologically safe environment in which they operate. Some people consider that their personality information is too personal to share. And whatever be our intention, be it to create a diverse work environment or not, we have to be very respectful of people's privacy sentiments, right? Again, personally, automatically excluding a person from an opportunity because their personality isn't best suited for a challenge is a very bad idea. I really recommend thinking through it. For example, you will know that, for example, an introvert is not generally suited for a sales role. But to have extroverts and introverts in a balance in a sales organization is a very good diversity to have, because you will have people who will call out risk. You will have people who will listen more if you have more introverts also in the team, right? So if you were to just look at a personality type and think that this is not the best fit, I would caution you against it. So use your judgment and seeing how the team is forming and what kind of personalities you really have, right? So the next time when you're looking for hiring, you might want to look at somebody who has a slightly different personality than the team composition that you currently have. I would have shown, a beautiful video where you could have experienced how different people from different personalities speak, but that's something we'll keep for another time. Next slide. Again, what are the labels we put on people? So I'm encouraging you to think a little more about these personality types and not really get very technical about it. So when we our own sense of judgment, which is a good thing at times, is also a sense of bias. So question yourself and ask, what labels do we put people on? So if some of these personality types and common personality types that I discussed make you remember people, are you labeling them as well? And this is something we should all be very, very wary of, right? If we look at somebody and say X person is introvert, X person is extrovert, that's not a good description of the person, because introverts also, are very sociable at times in the environment that they, that interests them, that engages them. Extroverts also like to have a quiet time with themselves, right? So are you putting labels and then judging and maybe forecasting how people are going to behave in a certain environment? Then I would make you, want you to be a little more cautious about it. Next slide. This is another topic that's really something that you can read a lot about. When we talked about personality types and diversity, I thought I'll also bring in this thought. Have you heard of neurodiversity? Is it a good idea? Right? When we think of neurodiversity, we are really talking about people from diverse backgrounds and people with, we can say, people from the intellectual, diversity background. So people from the autism background, people who are high functioning, very good with maybe numbers, maybe tech data, maybe, a certain area of academics, right? And do not function very well socially. So these are people who may not even clear your regular interview rounds. But these are certain people, they bring in a very high level of, functioning in a certain area. and that is really desirable. So if you read up a little more, you will see a lot of organizations today aspire to have, groups of neurodiversity in their own organization. And these are also groups of people that have helped organization achieve great heights in certain teams that they've worked in, bringing in inclusion, bringing in an ambience of empathy, and also really good ideas in innovation, right? Next slide, please. Ultimately, what are we trying to create? And this is a goal we have to keep in mind. We are creating a sense of belonging, right? What does belonging really mean? Since it's a little bit of a diffuse idea in a lot of people's mind, I thought I'll break it down a little bit. The first one being understanding. I understand what is expected out of me. So when you get people from diverse personality backgrounds in your organization, this is something that we have to bring clarity to. Do they understand what is expected out of them? Control. I have a sense of how to get results. I don't have to control the entire job or people, but I have a general sense of how I can achieve this, right? So I feel that I have certain control over my work. Trusting. I can count on others, right? And here I am. I feel good. I feel psychologically safe, right? Self-enhancing. Self-enhancing is a view of the fact that I feel valued at work, right? So whatever I'm doing today, and a lot of us will succeed in what we are doing, but we may not also succeed in what we are doing. I'm encouraged to experiment, and even if I fail, I learn. I feel valued at work. So these are 4 things that we really want to achieve when we are creating an inclusive workplace with different personalities, and our ultimate goal is to give people a sense of belonging. Next slide. Again, as we are looking at different personality diversity, something that we should not forget is different groups of people have different lived experiences, come from different backgrounds, and hence their personalities might show some commonalities. And hence, we also need to understand different underrepresented groups. So in this slide, I'm talking about why do we need to learn about LGBTQI inclusion, right? We need to learn about LGBTQI inclusion because the lived experience of this particular group is really different. Their personalities are very different. Their experiences are different. In fact, a certain research around 2015 shows that 40% of them have, had homophobic experiences. They've had either their manager or HR discriminate against them. They felt marginalized and more, right? And this is the Mingle survey. You can, of course, look it up. The experiences from this community is not well understood. And a lot of people feel uncomfortable to work with LGBTQI inclusion individuals. So if you are looking at people from diverse background, then this is again a certain background that you must look into when you're creating diverse workplaces. I would have shown you another video on the LGBTQI spectrum. But again, I encourage you to do a little bit more of research because somehow my audio, the video is not working here. Again, this is a very, very important spectrum and an underrepresented group that can bring in a personality diversity in your team. So when you're looking at hiring, growing people in your team, then this is definitely a group you should look at. Next slide, please. What are the other diverse groups that also bring in different personal experience and hence some bit of personality diversity as well? Caregivers. So if they are caregivers in your workplaces, they will have certain needs. They will show certain signs of the stress that they feel as caregivers, the flexibility that they need. I personally, in fact, am working from my relative's home in Kolkata because one of my elder relatives was in the hospital for more than a month. My organization allows us to work from a remote location, and I found that calling to come and support an elderly couple in my family because I could do my work and also help somebody who was in need, right? So this has been very, very helpful to me personally, because it's allowed me to be with my family. It's also, of course, been very helpful to them. So when you look at caregivers, is your organization creating a psychologically safe environment for people to take the flexible options when they need? It's not just important to have the policies, but are you creating that space, right? Now, if a person who is in my space right now has assignments to attend to, needs flexibility, right? There are certain expressions of stress I may show because of the situation I'm in. There are certain requests that I may have, etc. So, are you providing for that, right? Again, people with disability, we spoke about neurodiversity a little bit, but there are people with different kinds of disabilities, so they may need different flexible environment. They may need some reasonable accommodation. So is your workplace really providing for that? People with mental health challenge, currently this is the year that I think the highest number of people have actually acknowledged or are experiencing mental health challenge. We at Publicis Sapien are really, really cognizant about it. We have very high investment in ensuring that our people feel supported with their mental health issues. We have invested in our own people getting trained. We have a huge external partnership with people where we discuss mental health challenge and how we can support our own people, right? Again, multiple generations at work also bring in multiple personality types. So when I'm talking about other diverse talent groups, please look, if you have budgeted for a lot of these different diverse groups and the kind of personalities that they will show because of their different lived experiences in your workplace, and hence try to tie in an inclusive workplace. Next slide, please. A quick snapshot of our strategy at Publicis Sapien. As you can see, it's driven by the leadership in terms of leading the mindful inclusion, driving accountability. We are also driving inclusive practices, which includes not only retaining and growing diverse talent group, but also hiring diverse talent groups, supplier inclusion. I spoke about having a special program for women, mental health, caregivers, LGBTQI inclusion, people with disability, and also multiple generations. Next slide. This is really the last slide, just a glimpse of a lot of different work we do. Again, if your organization or you are taking small steps or bigger steps in strides of creating inclusive workplace for everyone and having more personalities in your workplace, so that you can have a great environment where people challenge each other, collaborate with each other, you can also have a real interaction with the external community. So if you have LGBTQ folks inside the organization, great. If not, you can actually volunteer for LGBTQ organizations outside, because it gives you a reverse mentoring experience. You can volunteer for people, institutions that support people with disabilities. You can create loads of capability development program to start with to support different and diverse work groups in your organization. And again, like I said, I'll be happy to help anybody or any organization in this journey. And thank you for the opportunity for sharing this.